Hey guys, it's Karalynn and welcome back to the podcast where we talk about all things construction and legal. Today we're going over a chapter in my new book, Trust Your Gut, which is all about what should be in your residential construction contract and how to set yourself up for success. This chapter 5 that we're going to go over today is all about change orders, what they are, how they work, and why you definitely need to use them. All right, chapter 5, change orders. I don't think I've ever heard of a project that didn't have a change order. They're pretty much guaranteed. Once a contract is signed, it's a binding agreement. Any changes to that agreement need to be in writing and agreed upon by both parties. We call these modifications change orders. Whether it's a minor tweak or a major adjustment, a change order is the official document that alters the original terms. You know this, I know this, but does your homeowner? I'm willing to bet a lot of money and say no, they do not. In this chapter, I'll highlight how effectively managing change orders is crucial for you to maintain control of the project and protect your financial interests and foster clear communication with your clients. By setting expectations early, documenting every change, and ensuring all parties understand the process, you can prevent misunderstanding, disputes, and financial loss. Be the expert. Proactively explaining the change order process to homeowners sets you up for success. It shows that you know what you're doing, and when changes inevitably come up, it won't feel like a surprise. Without this upfront conversation, you risk losing credibility. Trust me, nothing shakes a homeowner's confidence faster than a contractor springing unexpected changes on them. Setting expectations is key to preserving that trust, and it starts long before the work begins. Even before they sign on the dotted line, let your client know that things are bound to change. The scope of work might look airtight, but construction isn't a perfect world. And that's okay, because we've got this process in place to handle it. For example, be upfront about the kind of surprises that often arise in your line of work. Explain how a roofer might discover that some decking needs replacement once the shingles are removed, or how a remodel might open a wall to find outdated electrical wiring that doesn't meet current codes. Homeowners need to hear these issues are common and part of the reality of construction, but more importantly, they need to know you've planned it for them. You could say something like, "These types of discoveries happen all the time. That's why we have a system in place to handle these changes. If we run into anything unexpected, we'll issue a change order, review the costs together, and agree how to move forward before we start any additional work." Maybe your explanation sounds like this. "Hey homeowner, in a perfect world, the scope of work would cover everything. But since we don't live in that world, here's our process for handling changes. If you want to modify anything, we'll use this change order to do so. It's all in writing. We'll both sign off, and if the change affects the cost, we'll include that in the change order as well. No new work starts until that payment is taken care of. Any questions?" Clear communication from the start is critical, especially when it comes to legal documents like a contract. These days, it's easy to fire off a contract electronically and get a signature back, but that doesn't mean the homeowners actually read it. In fact, they probably haven't. That's why it's always a good idea to sit down with your clients and go over key sections face to face. The best contractors do this because it establishes trust, clarifies expectations, and ultimately leads to a smoother project. The change order process. Maybe you find something unexpected that needs fixing, or the homeowner suddenly decides that they must have a custom-built cabinet that they saw on Pinterest. Whatever the reason, anytime a project scope changes, you need to plan to handle it. That's where the trusty change order comes in. Think of a change order as your getting it in writing insurance. It's a formal document that outlines any modifications to the original plan, whether adding something new, removing a piece of the project, or making a last-minute switch. If it changes the scope of work, it needs to be documented in a change order. Here's how it usually goes down. Spotting the change. Let's say the homeowner wants to add a built-in cabinet to the living room. First, we figure out how much it's going to cost and how it's going to impact the project timeline. Because, the cabinet might push back the whole project. 2, putting it on paper. Next, we create a change order. This spells out everything: cost, any changes to the deadline, and the details in the new scope of work. If adding that fancy cabinet pushes the project back 2 weeks, we put that right in the change order. 3, getting the green light and the cash. The golden rule here is that the change orders get paid in full before you start the work. No exceptions. This keeps the cash flow smooth and avoids those awkward, but I thought that this was included conversation down the line. 4, always get it in writing. Even if a homeowner verbally agrees to a change, never rely on a handshake or a friendly nod. If it's not in writing, you're not guaranteed to get paid. And believe me, this happens all of the time. A homeowner might tell you, oh yeah, I'll pay for that at the end of the project. But when you submit the final bill, they suddenly have amnesia. I signed a change order eliminates all of that. A change order isn't just for adding things. It's also for taking things off. Say a homeowner decides to skip the new appliances. That's fine, but you still need a change order that reflects the reduced costs. This keeps the budget clear and makes sure everyone's on the same page. No needs for guessing games. Nothing is too trivial to document. Whether it's a major upgrade or a small tweak, get it in writing and have it signed. Not only does this help avoid confusion, but it protects you if a dispute pops up later. More on disputes in Chapter 13. Another valuable tip: consider charging a fee for submitting change orders, especially when you're working with clients who can't seem to make up their minds. Change orders take time to prepare, and that time is worth something. Just having the option of a fee gives you leverage. You don't always have to enforce it, but it's good to have it in your contract for those clients who might start a habit out of adding new requests. Every change, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, needs to be documented. Create the change order, make the copies, and attach it to the scope of work. Once signed by both you and the homeowner, get copies to ensure everyone knows what's going on. This attention to detail keeps your project organized and prevents misunderstandings from snowballing into larger conflicts. Don't work for free. There's a time and a place for charity, but a construction project isn't one of them. If you don't use change orders, you might as well be working for free, and that's not the business you're in. At the end of the day, the rule is simple. If you want to get paid, write it down and get it signed. No paperwork, no payment. It's that easy, really. Also, being the nice guy who does work for free doesn't get you very far. If you keep throwing in extras without proper documentation, homeowners will start to take you for granted. They won't value your work, and worse, that they might still be unsatisfied and expecting more. You could end up having to redo work that was never agreed upon in the first place. So protect yourself, use change orders, and get paid up front before the work is done. Managing subs. Managing subcontractors can feel like juggling, especially when the homeowner thinks they can bypass you and deal with your subs directly. I have an entire bonus chapter dedicated to managing subs, but it is important to highlight an important pitfall when it comes to change orders. Oftentimes, a homeowner will request additional work from subcontractors without your knowledge. A sub, wanting to please, does the work without a change order, and suddenly you're stuck with an unexpected bill. That's a problem, and it can escalate quickly if you're not careful. That's why it's important to include clear terms in your contract about who has the authority to approve extra work. Spell it out. Homeowners must direct all change order requests to the project manager, not the subcontractors. For example, your contract might say only the project manager is authorized to approve additional work or changes in the scope of work. Subcontractors are not permitted to accept or act on requests from homeowners directly. By laying down this rule, you avoid miscommunication and ensure that you stay in control of the process. Set expectations early. When you're having a conversation with your client before the project even starts, make it clear. If you want to change anything or add any extra work, talk to me, not my crew. That way, you maintain control and ensure proper documentation and avoid confusion down the road. But the responsibility doesn't stop there. You need to manage your subs too. Let them know that if the homeowner approaches them with requests, they are to direct the homeowner right back to you. Subs should never make promises or start extra work without your approval. And it's your job to enforce that rule. This is This is extra communication, though it may seem small, it can save you major headaches later. In short, keep communication tight, manage your subs, educate your client, and document everything. Doing so will protect your business, your project, your sanity in the long run. An aspiring builder. Ted was excited. He had experience building houses, just never for anyone other than himself. This project was a big deal, his first real client. A homeowner hired Ted to build a brand new home from the ground up, and Ted couldn't wait to prove himself. But this wasn't just any homeowner. Unbeknownst to Ted, his client had done his homework, and it wasn't the kind of research you'd expect. The homeowner had tracked down properties that Ted owned and made sure to include a personal guarantee in the contract. Now, if Ted didn't fulfill his end of the deal, the homeowner wouldn't just go after his business. Ted's personal assets were also on the line. But Ted, eager to get the job done, didn't give it that much thought. From day one, the job seemed simple enough. Ted had a contract, clear scope of work, and a set of blueprints. The project started smoothly, but as it progressed, the homeowner began requesting changes. Small things at first, minor adjustments to the plans. Ted, wanting to keep his client happy, went ahead and made the changes. No problem, he thought. I'll get a change order for this later. That became the refrain throughout the build. The homeowner would say, just take care of it now and we'll sort out the paperwork at the end. Ted, eager to please and avoid conflict, kept obliging. As the months passed, those small changes accumulated. By the time the house was 90% finished, Ted realized he was looking at $150,000 worth of additional work, none of which had been properly documented with a signed change order. When Ted approached the homeowner to collect for the extra work, everything came crashing down. Instead of agreeing to pay, the homeowner outright refused and terminated Ted from the job. Ted was stunned. How could someone back out after all the work that has been done? His frustration mounted when the homeowner not only refused to pay, but also sued Ted for not finishing the project and for defective work. Ted's $150,000 dream project was now a legal nightmare. He had no signed change orders to back him up, and his personal assets were now on the line because of the personal guarantee he had signed. The case became even more complicated when Ted discovered the homeowner had been planning this all along. The entire setup was designed for Ted to fail, allowing the homeowner to come after his assets. In a last-ditch effort, Ted filed a lien for the unpaid work. The homeowners countered by suing Ted, claiming the work was incomplete and defective. The case dragged on, with both sides trading legal blows. But then something unexpected happened. When Ted's team went in to argue the validity of the lien, the judge sided with Ted. The judgment declared that the lien was valid and included a finality clause, meaning the case was closed. More on lien rights in Chapter 7. Because of that language, Ted's client couldn't pursue the lawsuit further. It was an unusual outcome and one that didn't typically happen in such cases. While Ted didn't recover anything he was owed, he managed to avoid paying the homeowner anything in return. Ted's first project had taken a turn he never saw coming. He walked away bruised, but with his assets intact, a hard lesson learned about the value of change orders and proper documentation. Example contracting language. To make sure you're covered, here's an example of what your contract should include. The owner may request changes in work. All changes must be documented in a written change order signed by both parties. The cost of the extra work will be added to the contract price, and payments for the extra work will be made as it progresses alongside regular payments. Important note, no additional work will begin without a signed change order. For increases in work, a signed change order must describe the additional work, costs, and any required extension of the completion date. If extra work requires additional time, the contractor is entitled to a reasonable extension. For decreases in work, the owner and the contractor must agree on the reduced scope and contract price. If no agreement can be reached, the deduction will equal the cost of the materials plus 15%. Amendments signed or initiated by both parties will become part of the contract and overall controlling all conflicting terms. Key takeaways. Set expectations early about the change order process. This will make you look like the expert that you are. You're not entitled to get paid for extra work that isn't documented. Don't do it. Consider charging a fee for change orders as leverage. An important lifeline. In an unpredictable world of construction, change orders are your lifeline to maintaining order, transparency, and profitability. Ted learned this lesson the hard way. By failing to document every change order with a signed order, he nearly lost everything. His eagerness to please and avoid conflict left him vulnerable to a client who had other plans. Ted's story is a powerful reminder of how change order process, how without a clear change order process, you risk losing time, money, and trust. Remember, every change, big or small, needs to be documented in writing and agreed upon before any work begins. By educating your clients, managing your subcontractors, and being diligent with paperwork, you create a framework that minimizes disputes and maximizes success. But let's face it, sometimes no matter how clearly you set expectations, some projects can turn into a colossal nightmare. Whether it's because of an uncooperative client, unforeseen complications, or changes in circumstances, there may come a time when you need to walk away. But you won't be able to without an escape clause, which is what we'll cover in the next chapter.